Hello, I'm Kyle. Welcome to Give Pause Hobby, the channel where I stop to appreciate the things I love to fill my free time with. And we're back with another edition of quick piloting our RootBot factions with the second to final, the penultimate RootBot so far, the Drillbit Duchy. So just like before, with all the other, I guess, 6 of these episodes that have been released, up here is the link to the Big Brother episode, where I'm giving all the rules, everything here going into detail about how to run this faction, some of the confusing parts, some of the tiebreaker, quibbles, and all of that is going to be condensed into just me walking through one turn right here. I'm not going to show you an example. I'm not going to go in something that'll give a little bit of detail, but not much. However, if you want to see an example turn, and if you want all that detail, the link that I put in the corner is going to be where you want to go. So what is this video for? There's really 3 reasons you would want this video. One, I guess maybe there's 4. 1, you're just curious about what goes on under the hood of one of these RootBots. 2, you learned the RootBots at some point, or this one in particular, and you just want to refresh your memory. 3, you know some of the other RootBots, and you you've learned other ones, but not this one, and you think you might know enough to just kind of get the idea of it from a much shorter video rather than like a half-hour long one. And I think that first one I thought was a new one was actually an old one. So I think those are the 3 reasons you would want to be here. Now, Drillbit Duchy was part of the most recent ill-fated live stream of a Robo Rumble. Again, link in the corner. Here's my recap of how that went. I think this is one of my, if not my favorite RootBot faction. Now, it's been at the top of my list in terms of my favorite to pilot for a long time. There have been other contenders, but this has held that seat for now. But I've kind of gone on for long enough. Let's get to what makes the Drillbit Duchy tick. So before we actually get into the play and the top of the card, I want to do a teeny bit about the setup. Usually that's not included in these videos. Again, it is in the big one. But the last step of the Drillbit Duchy setup is to draw 2 cards and sway 2 ministers. That was not always part of the Better Bot Project version that led to the official version, but it's a fantastic addition. And once it hit, I was like, how were we playing it a different way ever before? So in this version, we're going to say that I drew a rabbit and a mouse card. It doesn't matter what they are. I suppose it would, because if there's an item there, you might know, ooh, that's not in the game. But anyways, we're putting a crown on the marshal, the topmost rabbit minister, and then the formal. And what we're going to do for the formal is put an extra crown over next to the recruit action up in Birdsong. We'll get to why. All right, so let's get to the actual turn. Before you begin, make sure you're paying attention to your berries. Poor manual dexterity and hate surprises are staples of the industry in the RootBot world. Cost of errors is the RootBot twist on the price of failure rule that the regular moles have. So make sure you're paying attention to your berries. They're important to how the faction works. Details in that other video. Birdsong. Reveal the top card of the deck as an order card. Now, just a quick aside, we're back to doing this. The last 2 bots did not have this action that every single other bot has. So we're back into our comfort zone. So you're flipping over the card, and that's your order card. First of all, if it contains a craftable item that still exists in the supply, you will craft it for 1 victory point. Doesn't matter how many victory points it says. If it's a craftable ability, ignore it. If it's a non-craftable card, also ignore it. And just pay attention to the suits. Finally, recruit. 2 warriors plus 1 per mole showing in the burrow. And it says remember 4 mole. So remember that crown we put over here? I'm just going to put it right on top of the 3rd next to recruit. And that's going to remind me, ding, look over at your ministers because there's something important over there. I know it says remember 4 mole at the end, but I have missed that so many times. And there's a slim to zero chance that you're going to need crowns for every one of these ministers, so you have a couple of extras. The other one I would also do is for captain, the topmost fox. Just put a crown next to battle to make sure that you don't forget about that ability, because there's nothing worse than later on saying, oh, I should have put an extra mole there, and realizing the cascading effects that would have happened. So that's your bird song. Daylight, first up is dig, like the biggest action on the board. If the burrow has 4 or more warriors, place a tunnel in an ordered clearing with no tunnel and no duchy buildings, and also move 4 warriors from the burrow into it, with 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 tiebreakers. So let's start with the bottom one first. No tunnel in supply. If you have used all 3 of your tunnels, you're going to take one from the clearing with the least amount of duchy warriors. And I won't go into the details of the other tiebreakers, just that third one's important. But it matters if your order card is a bird or not a bird. Obviously, bird means that everything is potentially targetable, but your tiebreakers actually change too. Next up, you're going to battle. So this faction is going to do a lot of mobilization, moving out to somewhere and fighting. In each ordered clearing, and again, it says remember captain, but we are going to remember because of the crown. And then you have a defender tie there. Next up, build. In the clearing you rule with the most duchy warriors. Place a citadel if you have 9 or more warriors in your supply. Otherwise, place a market. Score 1 victory point if you cannot place a building while this board has any buildings on it. So this is a little bit of a tricky one. Again, I'll give you a teeny bit of detail. First of all, in the big video I talk about, I place my mole warriors. I often forget until I get to this action, and then I reshuffle them. I place them in one row of 9 moles and then all the rest underneath. That way, and I always make sure to count that top row, because then I don't have to count them every time I take this action. If there are at least, or no, hold on, I put 8, that's it. I put 8 in the top row, and then I put the 9th and all the rest in the bottom row. So I know if there is at least 1 warrior in that second row, then I'm going to be placing down a citadel because I have 9 or more. So the 8 up top are like the emergency reserve. The opposite of emergency. That means they're doing very well at recruiting. And then the other part, score a victory point if you can't place a building. So if you really should be placing a citadel, but they're all out on the board, then you would score a victory point because the only buildings you have are markets. Or if you have buildings on the board and you just don't rule any clearings to place any buildings on the board. Those are the 2 times it's going to happen. Fourth up, ministers. Take all the action of your swayed ministers from top to bottom. Now, at the beginning, we placed one on Marshal and 4 mole. So that means 4 mole is already taken care of. That was the lower of the 2. So Marshal, place a warrior into a clearing that has the fewest duchy warriors and a duchy building. Early in the game, that's easy because there is only 1 building. So you place a mole, boop, right onto that building. And that's the end of daylight. Evening. First up, rally. In each ordered clearing with no duchy buildings and 2 or fewer duchy warriors, move all duchy warriors to an adjacent clearing with a duchy building. So we're going to consolidate defensiveness on the buildings they have to hopefully prevent cost of errors from proccing. Importantly, no such clearing. It says if there isn't a clearing for them to go to, like you have 2 or fewer duchy warriors, but there aren't buildings around them, place the warriors that you would move in the burrow. So they just like tunnel back to base. And then in each clearing you rule, place all but 4 warriors in the burrow. So we are, again, consolidating to buildings and then further consolidating to the burrow to ensure that, additional defensiveness is more useful by being back in the burrow so it can dig out and attack some more. All right, after that, score 1 victory point per market on the map. That's an easy one. And then sway. Place a crown on the topmost ordered unswayed minister. Now, if you have one available, say for instance, the order was a fox card, boom, we swayed the captain. But there are 2 ways that you would make that no such minister rule happen. First, is if you've already swayed all 3 of one suit. So if you have all 3 of the Fox ministers swayed and you have another Fox card, then you would go to this. No such minister, sway the bottommost unswayed minister. So then you'd be working up from the opposite side. It doesn't matter what suit you're talking about then. The other way it would happen is if the order card is a bird. Again, Drillbit Duchy takes bird cards, which are normally just the most permissive and the easiest because it's just everything. And you would think, oh, it's just the topmost minister regardless of suit. But the rulebook clarifies, saying that no such minister does also include bird cards, because none of these are bird ministers. Bird means whatever it needs to be, but these are all apparently more proud of their suit. So in that case, you would still do this rule. For the birds, you would go to the bottom, most unswayed minister. And then the permissiveness of the bird card comes back into play because the suit doesn't matter. And finally, discard the order card. And that's the end of the turn. Again, the details of the ministers I'm showing on the screen right now. I go into detail on that on the bigger episode, but this one's, the Clockwork 2 factions are a little bit more complicated, I have found, at least in certain ways. This is already going a little bit long. So if you want more detail, again, you know where to go to the other video. So that's all for our quick piloting episode, in air quotes. It's not the quickest, but next up, we will, when we come back with this series, we will be having the Clockwork Conspiracy the Clockwork Corvids to round out all 8 of the current RootBots. And again, I hope that inspires you to get more RootBots to the table because they're great. So thanks for taking a pause with Give Pause. Happy gaming, and we'll see you next time.